I grew up in a small town where everything was old, from the wooden houses to the deserted train station up north. Track 7, the very last track leading into the decade-old abandoned warehouse district, was where our group used to gather every summer evening. Nobody ever went there except for us. No police, no security, no adults. Just the sickly yellow overhead light swinging whenever the wind blew, and the sound of rusted metal scraping whenever a distant cargo train passed by. Aaron, my best friend since kindergarten, and I always called the place our territory. After school, hot or cold, the whole group would come here to light a small fire, talk nonsense, and listen to music on a cheap speaker. Aaron was the one who made the place special. He always laughed loudly, told silly stories, and was the person who could lift the mood even if everyone was feeling absolutely rotten. But there was one thing even he couldn't hide: his fear of the dark. Aaron hated the warehouse area. There was a row of old buildings with shattered windows, and it always felt like someone was standing inside looking out. He often said, "Every night it feels like I'm being watched." I just laughed. Nobody could survive in that decaying place. One night in early July, I arrived earlier than everyone else. It was cool and windy, and the yellow light on track 7 flickered as if about to die. I sat there for over 15 minutes, but no one showed up. Just as I was about to text Aaron, I heard something echoing from the end of the row of warehouses. A slow footstep, dragging, like someone walking with a wooden leg. I turned around, but saw nothing but darkness. I switched on my phone's flashlight and shone it straight into the path next to the warehouses. No one. I told myself it must be a stray cat and sat back down. But as I lifted my can of soda, the track light suddenly went out. The entire station plunged into a solid black. It was only a few seconds, but my heart felt like it had stopped. When the light flickered back on, I saw something new. A man was standing in the middle of track 7, about 30 meters away from me. Head bowed, hands hanging loosely, motionless. I couldn't see his face. I only saw a tall, lanky figure wearing a long, dark brown coat with hair hanging down to cover half his face. I first thought it was just a drunk person who had wandered off. But the thing that sent a chill down my spine was this. He was standing exactly where Aaron used to sit and dangle his legs over the track every evening. I stood up, ready to ask, "Excuse me, sir," but he lifted his head so subtly it was almost not a normal human movement. In that instant, even under the weak light, I was sure his two eyes were staring straight at me. Not in a harmless way, but as if he had known me for a long time. I backed away. He took a step forward. Just one step, but the sound of his shoe crushing the gravel was too loud, like someone grinding bones. I bolted for the parking lot. I should have run straight home, but instead I circled my car around the back of the station. I don't know why. Perhaps out of a morbid curiosity, or because I wanted to make sure he wasn't following. In the corner of the lot, I saw an old pickup truck. The thing that froze me wasn't the truck, but the license plate. It was Aaron's plate number. But this truck was painted a different color, matte black, while Aaron's was silver. As I got closer, the car lights suddenly flashed on, as if someone was sitting inside. I drove straight home, not daring to look back. The next morning, Aaron's mom called me. Her voice panicked. Aaron hadn't come home last night. No one could reach him. The family reported him missing to the police. I didn't mention seeing his car at the station. I wanted to believe I had seen wrong. I wanted to believe the man last night was just a hallucination. But a week passed, and there was no trace of Aaron. Then came August. While cleaning out some old stuff, I found the 9th grade yearbook. In the photo of our field trip to the old station that year, at the very end of the picture, hidden behind the crowd of students, there was a tall, thin man standing in the shadow of the warehouse door. I zoomed in on the photo. Unmistakable. Long brown coat, leaning posture, hair falling down over his face. He had been there for years. Standing behind us, blending into the darkness as a part of the place. I threw up immediately after seeing the picture. 2 months later, I heard the police found some of Aaron's belongings in a forest 15 kilometers from the station, but no body, no tracks, nothing. I tried to move on, tried to forget, until one autumn morning when I stopped at a red light on my way to work. Behind me, a matte black car pulled up. Its headlights flashed on just as my car stopped. I looked in the rear-view mirror. The license plate, it was Aaron's. Not a single character was wrong. While I was still numb, the door of the black car behind me opened. A tall, thin figure wearing a brown coat stepped out. He tilted his head to the side, exactly as he did the night I saw him on track 7. I slammed the gas pedal, ran the red light, and nearly crashed into another car. I didn't dare look back. To this day, whenever I drive past the old station, the sickly yellow light still flickers like it's breathing. And sometimes, when the night is quiet, I hear the slow, dragging footsteps behind me, even when no one is there. I know he is still searching. He's looking for those who once sat on track 7, and he knows exactly that I am next. My 3 friends, Haley, Trent, and Morgan, and I were all interns at the Aerospace Research Center. The work was fascinating, but the pressure was wearing us down. So that weekend, we decided to leave the city, find a secluded place to stargaze, and breathe some fresh air. Morgan found a spot quite far out, a clearing in Shady Ridge Alley Forest, a place locals warned few dare to tread. Of course, 4 city kids like us didn't pay any mind. We packed up, taking 2 cars, my silver sedan and Trent's moss green pickup truck. Soon after leaving the city, the street lights grew sparse, phone signal became weak, and eventually there was only the sound of the car engines and the surrounding darkness. We arrived at the campsite around 1 a.m. The sky opened up, vast and incredibly full of stars. We laid out a blanket, set up the telescope, and played some quiet music. The night air was cold but pleasant. No car sounds, no lights. I lay back, looked at the stars, and thought this was probably the best decision we'd made in a long time. But only 20 minutes later, Trent, who was sitting in the back of the pickup checking gear, shouted, "Hey, someone's coming!" We all looked toward the path. Far away, there was a faint white light, like the headlights of an old car slowly creeping up the dirt road. The light wasn't steady, sometimes bright, sometimes dim, like a dying battery. "Maybe it's the park ranger," Haley whispered. Morgan shook his head. There are no night rangers in Shady Ridge Alley. The car moved a few more meters and then stopped. It didn't turn off its engine. It didn't turn off its lights. The doors didn't open. It just stood there, about 100 meters from us, as if observing. I flashed my flashlight 3 times, signaling to ask if they needed help. The only reply was complete silence. We looked at each other. Everyone was tense, but no one dared to speak. After a while, Morgan switched on the walkie-talkie that Trent always carried on trips. He tried to call out, "If anyone can hear this, we're just here stargazing." Not bothering anyone, a piercing static sound erupted, then went silent. Then a tiny voice, almost a whisper, came through the walkie-talkie. "You should not be here." Haley jumped, nearly dropping her flashlight battery. The walkie-talkie went silent again. The white car still stood there, but its headlights were now pointing directly at us. I had the chilling feeling that someone in the car was leaning over, observing our every move. The cold light reflected off the tree canopy, making the shadows of the leaves tremble as if a breeze were blowing, even though there was no wind. "Let's go," Trent said, quiet but firm. No one disagreed. We put out the fire, packed our gear as quickly as possible, and ran to the cars. I started the sedan, and Trent drove the pickup. The headlights of the white car in the distance suddenly intensified, as if it realized we were about to leave. When we turned our cars around to drive the opposite way, the white car also started to move. Morgan yelled over the walkie-talkie, "It's following us!" I hit the gas. The bumpy dirt road made the car shake violently, but I didn't dare slow down. The white car behind us wasn't speeding, but it always maintained the exact same distance, as if it knew precisely how fast we could travel. I checked the rear-view mirror. In the glow of its headlights, I saw the shape of a person in the driver's seat. But the person's head was tilted unnaturally to one side, as if their neck was broken. Yet, the hands were still gripping the steering wheel. I nearly choked. A little further on, the road split into two. I swerved right, Trent went left, following our plan to separate and lose it. I called out on the walkie-talkie, "Trent, see who it follows." "No! Can't see! Oh!" Trent's voice broke off. The walkie-talkie buzzed with static. I drove for about 2 minutes and realized the white car was no longer behind me. I stopped at a bend and tried to contact Trent. "Trent, can you hear me?" Silence. I wanted to turn back, but Morgan held my arm. "Don't. If it followed Trent's direction, turning back will only make it find us faster." I knew he was right, but the prolonged silence was driving me crazy. Finally, after nearly 5 minutes, the walkie-talkie crackled to life. "I'm okay. It's gone." Trent's voice was shaky, as if he'd been crying. We met up on the main asphalt road near the edge of the forest. No one spoke during the drive to the guest house. Once there, Trent explained that the white car had followed him deep into a section of the woods, then suddenly turned into a path he swore hadn't existed on the way in. But the scariest part, Trent said, was when it turned into the darkness. Its lights went out, but I could still see the person's shadow, standing in the middle of the road, like it was waiting for me. We couldn't sleep that night. 3 days after returning to the city, Haley sent us a photo, an old article about the disappearance of 3 hunters in Shady Ridge Alley in 1998. In the crime scene photo, in the far corner, there was a white pickup truck, identical to the one that had chased us, no license plate, and no one knew who the truck belonged to. That evening, I went to the grocery store near my apartment. When I got to the parking lot, I saw a streak of white light reflecting on my car window. I turned around. A white pickup truck, no license plate, headlights on. I couldn't see anyone inside the car, but I saw a handprint on the windshield. A handprint longer than a normal person's, sliding down from the top, as if someone had slowly crawled onto the hood to look inside. I ran. When I looked back one last time, the car's lights suddenly shut off, as if they had never been on. I didn't sleep that night, because every time I closed my eyes, I heard the faint whisper from the walkie-talkie I had thrown away. You won't escape. In December 2023, I decided to take a 3-week leave and return to Maple Ridge, a small town in the Appalachian Mountains, where my family once owned an old, abandoned, Victorian-style lodge for many years. My childhood was tied to this place, but I only vaguely remembered the long, dark hallways and the strange whistling of the wind through the roof tiles. As I got older, I increasingly felt that this lodge was hiding something not right. The Maple Ridge Lodge stood on an isolated hill, surrounded on all 4 sides by dense pine and oak forests. No one lived within a 2-mile radius. The day I returned, the snow was thick, the sky was grey, and the air was bone-chillingly cold. When I pushed open the heavy old wooden door, dust billowed across the lobby. There was no caretaker, no staff, no guests. Only the creaking of the floorboards beneath my feet and the smell of long-decayed wood. I thought I would do a little cleaning, stay for a few nights, and take some photos for memories. But right on the first night, I felt like I was sleeping in a place not meant for humans. Every gust of wind whistling through the door cracks sounded like someone whispering. I tried to ignore it and go back to sleep. The next day, I walked around the forest behind the lodge. The snow was soft and so cold that every step felt twice as heavy. I walked deeper into the woods instinctively, following no trail. Somewhere in my childhood memory, I recalled seeing a low wooden structure or cellar in this area, something my parents always avoided talking about. After about an hour of walking, I saw it. A steel cellar door sunken into the earth, like a hatch from the 1900s. The latch was rusty, but the door was slightly ajar, as if it had been recently used. The strange thing was that while snow covered everything around it, there were no footprints leading to the cellar door, not even mine. The snow there was perfectly flat, as if no one had ever approached it. I opened the door anyway. A blast of freezing air rushed up, colder than the outside air. Below was a wooden staircase leading down to a dark room. I switched on my flashlight and stepped down. The first beams of light hitting the walls made me shiver. The walls weren't concrete, but old wooden planks joined together, etched with a series of strange symbols, circles, straight lines, a symbol resembling a crossed-out eye. The air in the cellar was thick and hard to breathe. The smell of damp earth mixed with old metal. I went further in and found a room only about 3 square meters wide. In the middle of the room was a large iron chest, so old that its edges were corroded. Around the chest were pieces of dirt-stained black fabric, as if they had been used to cover it. I approached and touched the thin layer of dust on the chest lid. That's when I heard a sound, very faint, like metal tapping from beneath the floor. At first, I thought it was a rat, but the sound had a rhythm. 3 taps, pause, then 3 more taps, as if someone was trying to send a signal. I aimed the flashlight toward the cellar door. Nothing. But when I turned back, I could have sworn the chest had just vibrated slightly, as if something inside was breathing. I backed away, my heart pounding. The tapping stopped. The space was dead silent. Then suddenly, behind me, a dragging sound echoed, like someone dragging bare feet on the old wooden floor. I swung the flashlight back toward the corridor behind me. There was no one, but the dust on the floor had a long smear mark, a single one, like the mark of a dry, skinny hand that had just swept across it. I ran. As I climbed close to the opening, the entire room below shook violently, making me stagger and almost fall. The cellar door slammed shut with a bang, as if someone inside was trying to pull it closed. I scrambled out, pushed the door hard, and ran through the snow without daring to look back. When I reached the lodge, my heart felt like it would burst from my chest. I locked all the doors, ran up to my room, and hid behind the bed. All night, I heard slow, heavy footsteps pacing in the lobby below. Not the sound of the wind, not an animal either, because each step was distinct, as if someone was dragging one leg. The footsteps stopped right outside my room door. The floor creaked softly. Someone was standing outside. I leaned over to look through the crack beneath the door. A long, distorted black shadow, standing still, not breathing, not moving. I couldn't sleep until morning. The very next day, I packed my bags. I left Maple Ridge immediately, driving for 3 hours without stopping. I swore I would never return to that lodge. But 3 days later, my father called. He said someone had broken into the lodge. Nothing was stolen, no vandalism. Only one thing was more terrifying. In the room I stayed in, on the wall, there was an unusually long handprint made of dirt and ash, exactly where I had rested my back that night. I tried to find an explanation. I tried to convince myself it was a thief. But every night, lying in my city apartment, I hear the same 3-tap knock I heard in the underground cellar. 3 taps, pause, 3 taps. Last week, when I came home late from work, I saw a long dragging mark in the snow outside my apartment door, leading from the parking lot straight to my door. Not a body mark, not a footprint, but the mark of something, slithering. Last night, I sat in the kitchen and heard the 3-beat knock coming from the floor below. Even though I live alone, I know I brought that thing out of the cellar in Maple Ridge. Even though I never opened the iron chest, even though I only lightly touched it, it still found me.